All right, so welcome. Looks like we got a couple people here, and I think we might have one or two people in the office as well sitting in on there. So today we're going to talk about the gradebook and how to set up your gradebook, how to add gradebook items. We're going to talk about how to put them into categories, how to weight them. If you're weighting, everybody has a lot of different programs have different ways of doing their grading and their grading scale. And so what we'll actually do is we'll take a look at one example that I actually use for my class. So I teach one section of SLU 125, Choosing Wellness. And the way my class is laid out is I have several different categories of assignments that mine are in, and they're worth a certain percentage. And so I'll show you kind of how I set up mine that way. And then hopefully that'll help you whenever you go to do your own gradebook, that you'll be able to set yours up as well. So let me show you all an example of, here's what a gradebook looks like for me as an instructor. And so I have my students in here. And so you can see this would be what their final grade would normally be, would be listed here.
Greg,
And
I'm sorry to
everybody,
interrupt. I don't think we're seeing your screen.
oh, whoops, sorry. You know what?
Thank
I am not sharing.
you.
That might
Thank
help
you.
actually, I guess, huh? All right, let's see here. All right, can you see it now? The D2L, perfect. It's been one of those days and it's like towards the end of the day. So, but anyway, all right, so thanks for catching that. Unless I would have gotten through my session and went, oh, wait a minute, I got to start all over again. All right, so here's what, if you pull up your grade book, so if I wanted to go to progress and grades, this is what I would initially see after I have things set up. And so I would see the list of my students here. I would see this first column, which is final grades. And you can see if there was a grade here for each one of these, the calculated grade, it would show up. You can see this eyeball, which is showing where the students can actually see it. Then what we'll actually have is we'll start to see the actual grade items in here. And so I was telling you about, there's two different ways. There's categorically, I could have one category where there is multiple grade items in it. So for me, I have this, what's called the personal wellness plan, and this is worth 30% of their total grade, and I have two assignments in there. The first one, which is called phase one, is worth 10%, and then this is worth 20%. So this one's worth double the amount of the other one. And so I'll show you all exactly how that looks, but that's all the umbrella under this category that's worth 30%. Then I have a category called collegial contributions. And so for me, that's basically every other assignment gets lumped into this one. So a lot of the assignments that I normally do in class get lumped in here, and that's worth about 20%. And then I have an additional category called the Group Wellness Project. And this is their the large group project that they do for the class, and it's worth 30% of their class grade. And so part of it, which is the individually assessed piece, is worth 20% of their grade, and then this collaborative activity they do all together is worth 10% of their grade, but that's under the same category that's worth 30%. And then I have a fourth category called the exams. And so midterm and final, one is worth 10%, the other one is worth 10%. So in a total, it's 20% of their grade, all in all. And so let me go in and I'll actually show you an example of what that looks like for my particular class. So you can see here, I have some of the phase ones that show up in here. First, I have the gradebook item that shows up here, whether it's numeric, and we're actually going to go through this, if it's a formula, if it's numeric, letter grades, we'll go through the different types whether it's associated with something else in your class. And so what I usually do is I set up the gradebook item and then I associate it to an assignment where the students actually turn in the assignment from there. And I'll show you that as well. And then what the maximum points are and then how it's weighted. So that's categorically, that's how it fits. So let's go in and I'll show you how to set it up. If you don't have a gradebook set up at all, this is what you want to initially do. You want to go to the setup wizard and click here, and it'll show you default settings that will be showing up, and we'll go through each one of these. But this is what you'll end up ultimately checking to make sure everything is correct before you end up hitting OK at the very end or hitting submit. So we're going to start from here, and we're going to go through each one of these categories. So first you want to start out and you want to decide, do you want to go with weighted? Is everything weighted in your class? If it is, then this is what you would want to select for the weighted one. If it's all via points, you may want to select that one. If it's a formula, that one I've not used before, so I'm not too familiar with it. But if that's the one you want to use for your class, then you can check that one out as well. For me, I told you I have different groupings that are weighted, and so that's the one that I would select here as well. So I'll go ahead and hit weighted. Then it's going to move on to the next step. Most of these you're just going to leave default. You don't really need to be changing them. This one, it says current grade, so the grade that is achieved by the user based on the grading formula set up in the gradebook. It's not going to be adjusted without editing the grade item score. So whatever is that current grade is what's going to show up for the students. I don't usually recommend doing the adjusted final grade. And then click automatically release the final grade. Sometimes if your students can't see those grades, you may have accidentally unchecked a button that doesn't allow that grade item or something else to be released. So you want to make sure this is checked. So as soon as you grade it, it automatically gets released and the students can see it. So we'll hit continue. The next one is if you want to drop any ungraded items. Sometimes people have multiple grade items loaded into their course, and maybe they don't get to all the grade items. Well, you want to make sure your students aren't going to get penalized for that. So you would want those automatically to get dropped so they don't end up counting as a 0. But you could end up, if you wanted to, select it and make those count as a 0. Continuing to automatically keep final grade updated. So each time you grade one, it automatically updates their final grade, and the students can always see exactly where they stand in your class if you keep this checked and automatically updated. Then we'll hit continue. The next one is the grading scheme. And so this one you have to decide, and these are put in here based off of the grading schemes from our school. So you can look right now, and it should be by default undergraduate letter grades. So you know how we have an A minus, B plus, B minus, and so those are automatically set that way. So depending on the percentage they're at, will automatically show you where they stand, and this is what it would look like. So if they have a 77, it'll show up as a C plus. So it knows the grading scheme of our school. Then if you have graduate grading, if you're a graduate course, then you would select the graduate letter grades and check one of those. Those are usually the two most used ones, depending on whether you're an undergrad or graduate course. So we're going to say it's an undergraduate course, click continue. I usually just leave this as default. So if they're a 77.25, then it would show up with the 25 at the end and not any other additional digits on there. So we'll hit continue on this one. And this kind of looks at those before. So what's going to be displayed, the point grade average, the weighted grade, a grading scheme symbol, and grade scheme. I usually leave all of this defaulted as well. And then you can see the number of characters for the gradebook item is 50, and then display final grade calculation for users. Just make sure that's checked as well. And then once you're good to go, we hit continue. And then it's going to show everything that we've set up here so far. So you can kind of review this before you go down here to hit finish. And then it's going to have it completely set up. Now, once we have this set up, I'll go through two items where I'll go through setting up a category. So if you have several assignments that you need to put in one category, and maybe they're a certain percentage, like I showed you what my class is, then you would start to create these different categories, and then you can start to put your gradebook items in them. So let's go ahead and hit create a new grade item or grade category. And if I wanted to create a new category, so let's say, you know, project 2 or something like that. And then you can just ignore the short name, just put your name in here. Then you come down here and you say, how much is this going to be weighted? Well, this might be weighted 10% of my grade. Okay, so I go ahead and leave that 10%. And then here's where you want to figure out how you want to distribute it. So manually assign weight to items in the category. So you can manually assign them. You can distribute weights by points across all items in category. This is usually what I end up doing. So like let's take one of mine that I have two different grade items in it, and one is worth 10% and the other one's worth 20%. So what I would end up doing is put distribute weights by points across all items. And then when I go to do the grade item, I put 10 points for one, and then I put 20 points for the other one, and then it will automatically figure out that one is worth 33.3% and the other one is worth 66.6%. And so that's the one I usually check whenever I'm doing these categories and trying to weight it. That way I don't have to try to figure out exactly how much I want to weight it across the board. It automatically distributes it by me giving it point values. So there's that one. There's also, if you want to distribute weight evenly across all the items, you could do that one as well. So if you know all the items are even, you know, all of them are worth 10% or something, then you could just do that one as well. I usually don't recommend checking any of these, you know, giving students the average, you know, of what's going on with that assignment. So just keeping all of those set, and then I'll go ahead and hit save and I'll hit close. Now, once it does that, then we can go down. Let's see if I can. So I have project 2 and it's showing up as a category. So here's where now I can actually, if I wanted to, I could go in and edit it. So if I need to make a change, I can edit it from here. But now we're ready to go ahead and put gradebook items in it. So now what we're going to do is go up to make sure you're under Manage Grades, click New, and click Item. So now we're doing a gradebook item that goes along with it. Now these are the different grade item types that you can do. The most used is obviously numeric, but you could end up picking one of these other ones if you wanted to. But we're going to use numeric for this example today. Once we have that one done, we're going to say, you know, project 2 introduction or something like that. Let's just call it that. And then we're going to go down here to category, and this is where I'm going to choose my project 2 category. So now it's going to lump that gradebook item inside that category. And then if you have a description that you want to give the gradebook item, you can put, you know, your description in here, and then allow all users to see it if you want to. And then here's where you want to figure out how many points you want to give. And so this starts to calculate just like I said before, if you have multiple gradebook items in the category, you want to figure out the point system that you want to do. So if one of them is worth only 10% and the other one's worth 20, this one will be 10 points. And so when I give the next grade item 20 points, it will be 1/3 of the grade within that category. So we have this one. Then we'll go ahead and if you want to give bonus, you can select that and it will allow you to give bonus points. Sometimes instructors have an option for bonus points. So you can put that as well. It should automatically be set to the undergraduate letter grade or whatever grading scheme you gave it. If you want to add rubrics, you can create a rubric if you want to. They have a whole grading rubric scheme that you can do in there. We're not going to do that today for the purposes of time, but we can point you in the right direction and help you create a rubric if you're interested in that. Then we're going to go ahead and leave the rest of these default. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit save and close. And then it should automatically populate that gradebook item inside of the category. And so you can see it right here. So once the students actually start to grade, or submit the assignments in here, then you can actually go ahead and start grading the assignments from here as well. And so I could actually click enter grades, and I could go ahead and start entering grades for the students, depending on how they submitted it. If they submitted it online, then you'll end up grading it from there. If they submitted it some other way, then you may end up just going directly to your gradebook and doing that as well. And so within the gradebook, now we can see here, I could go ahead and give each person their grade. And then you also have this feedback pencil over here where I could give the students feedback. And so that's the last part of our session where I'm going to go through the feedback. So once I click on the feedback tool, now you can see I can give students text feedback if I want to here. I could actually add additional information in here. I could add a link in here if I wanted to for feedback as well. And then I can also scroll down to, actually, let me see here. Insert stuff. You could add additional information in here with a YouTube video or things like that. So that is the feedback tool as well. And we'll go ahead and hit save. Actually, let me go ahead and put something in here. Great job. Go ahead and hit save. And then it'll actually save it in here. So are there any questions?
We don't have any in the chat, Greg.
Okay.
Okay, well, there are a couple of us down here.
Okay, perfect. You have any questions?
Yes. How do you connect up the grading to, say, the assignments?
All right, so once I had the gradebook item, let me show you now what I would end up wanting to do. So I have this.
You know what I'm talking about? The activity
Yes.
has
Yep.
assignments, and how do you connect the two?
Yes, exactly. So let me walk you through that. So now that I have the gradebook item here, which is what you want to start with first, then you're going to go up here to activities and you're going to click assignments. And now here's where you want to create a new folder. And so what we'll actually do is we'll create new folder and we'll call it project 2 introduction. I usually try to give the exact same name I gave for the gradebook item as I give for the assignment, so I don't get confused, because I can get confused easy. So once you have that in there, then you can go ahead and do whatever instructions you want in here. So, you know, please complete, you know, that. And then if you have an attachment that you want them to work on, you could go ahead and have that attached. So I could literally go here and find an attachment, a file. And so let me go ahead and find a file, and I'll put that on here. It's actually, all right, so I'll just throw this in here. I'll go ahead and hit add. And now this worksheet is there for the students to be able to pull up, work on it, and then re-upload it into the assignments area. So now I have my description here, the attachment that I want them to work on. Then what I'm going to go ahead and do is look, it's an individual assignment, file submission. So I could actually select if I just wanted them to do some text and submit it that way, they could do it that way, but this one's actually going to be a file submission. But if you just have them maybe give you feedback about something that they read or whatever, and you just want them to do it in text format, they could do a text submission. And then they're not having to upload and download a document. They could just literally type it right in there if you wanted to. I usually select it for unlimited submissions. In case they mess up the first time, they need to be able to do it again. Or if you end up giving them feedback, then they might need to resubmit it again anyway. And then keeping all this in default. If you wanted to really get notified if somebody did that, you could put your email in here. I don't ever do that. Then here's where you make sure you have, you don't have to have a category if you don't want to, but put the same score that you put on the gradebook item. So I put 10 points for the gradebook item. I'm going to put 10 points here. And then here's where I'm going to select the gradebook item that I just created. So I went ahead and selected this one. Now everything is connected. If I had a rubric to add to it, I would. And there, everything is connected. It's 10 points. It's connected to the gradebook item. I go ahead and hit save and close. And now you can see it show up over here. Now here's one thing that you have to remember with assignments, okay? It automatically defaults as hidden from the students. And so we need to make sure we always take a look at these settings here to make sure that this isn't showing up like it just was. So now I'm gonna go back in to the edit the folder. And I'm gonna go over here to where it says restrictions. Click on restrictions. And then see where it says hide from users? I want to go ahead and unhide this. Now, if you wanted to, you could literally set up your entire semester and hide them and make them available at certain dates, and they would automatically just trigger and start showing up. So the students wouldn't necessarily see everything all at one time. So you could literally have your assignments stagger as far as being shown in the assignments area by availability. And you can set a start and an end date. So we'll go ahead and leave the rest of that. I'll hit save and close. And now you should see where it doesn't show up now. And now it's currently connected to the assignments area.
I think the problem I have right now is that I've been operating not knowing that there was going to be a virus hitting and the school closing down. So my students have been putting in, I would just create a folder, tell them to put the assignment in, they put their assignments in. I have 20 or so assignments, but you know, they're not connected to the grading. Can I go back into the assignment once it's been put into the folder? And can I then hook that back into the grading?
Yes, you should be able to. Once you go back in and create the gradebook items,
Yep,
you'll just kind of do it backwards now that you
right.
have
That's
assignments
what
in
I
there.
want to know, how to do it backwards.
All right, so let's do this then. We'll do one backwards so we can see.
Here we go.
I haven't done one backwards before, so we'll figure out
I
figure it out
didn't think I was
together.
going to have to do them backwards.
Yeah, well, it seems like we all seem to be doing stuff that is
We're planning
interesting these
on.
days. All right, so let me go ahead and I'll do a test item.
Fine,
Go ahead and I won't select what gradebook item.
right.
Um,
Save it, close it.
so did you have a score that you put on it?
No, no,
No, you just had it regular? Okay.
right.
So I'll just hit save and close. And now it shows up here. Now what I can do is I'll go back into my gradebook. I'll go ahead and hit manage grades. We'll go to new item. We'll do a numeric item. We'll do test 2. If it was in a category, we'll just leave it outside the category. I'll go ahead and give it 10 points, a weight of 10, whatever you want it to be. And then we'll go ahead and hit save and close.
I think that will grab it.
Now the gradebook item should be located down here. So under test 2, now let's go back to the assignments area where we were. And we should be able to connect it. So now let's go back to test 2, edit folder. And then go ahead and scroll down here to the gradebook item. And now you should be able to see test 2 located there.
Right, very good.
Give it the
Very
same
good.
points, and then you should be good to go.
Right.
So you
All
can
right.
do it the other way. I've gotten in the habit of doing the gradebook item and getting the grade set, the grade score set, and the name set. And then I go back over and create the assignments and then attach the two together. So the students, I train them, just go into the assignments area, find the assignment description or whatever, or attachment, do the assignment, go back into the assignment, submit it from there, and then you're good to go. Any other questions?
No. Lynn's good, I'm good.